Hello, everyone. Welcome to part 3 of our training on our Kelvion Select RT selection software for refrigeration technology equipment. Primarily, we're looking at the dry cooler selections today. You should have by now gone through the basic general selection, how to build how to get a data sheet, how to build a unit in our selection tool. Today, we're going to be doing some more advanced training. All of this, you're going to need a user account with certain access levels to be able to do these selections. So hopefully you've gone through part 1 of the training to set up an account and actually build your profile. Today, we've got a lot of different things we are going to cover in this section. So that's going to include annualized power and water usage and costs for a system that you select, generating specifications and CAD files out of Kelvion Select RT, saving and referencing selections. So to go back and find them if you have multiple selections you're working through, building a quote directly in KSRT, non-standard options and prices. So how to get that from our system, estimated freight charges. So we can provide estimates if you give us the location you're looking to ship to. And then multi-unit selections. So if you have a site, as many times we see more than one of these units built at a site at a time. So really just want to get into it. So we're going to go back to dry coolers again here. So you'll notice it's a little bit different now. My screen probably looks different than yours as well because it's going to all come down to what access level you have. If there's something that I cover here that you're like, I really need to be able to have this and I can't do it because of my access level, reach out to us, let us know. We'll talk to our team about possibly seeing if we can give different access levels to you so that you can get this in properly. So first off, first thing I wanted to include, we have a lot of fluid types in here. If your fluid is not showing, we also have a user-defined fluid section here. So what that will do is it lets you, down at the bottom, enter a fluid type, and you're going to need to put in the specific thermal properties of the fluid to be able to run your selection. So when you do this, you need to make sure that all of this information is accurate and filled out. Any PED Fluid 1 groups will not show up and won't be accepted on our system. So it's going to have to be a Fluid 2 group to be able to work in on our dry coolers. So that's kind of the ability that you can do there. So you can play around with a lot of funky different pieces of equipment. So I'm going to go back and just do a water selection just so that we can show you some of the other things that we can do here. I had mentioned in the previous area, there is the ambient profiling. So if you were to go to the United States, and I'm going to select my location of Philadelphia, there's a lot of different selections available here. If you have a location that is not showing up here, let us know. If there's not something nearby that we can provide, we can pull that data in. We use certain weather data annualized, and it will show you the past few years what the highs and lows of that area is. So on this side here, this popped up new. This gives you whether you want to use the high peak, hottest part of the year, 0.2%, 0.4%, 1%. You can also edit the suggestions. So this, before I did it, these boxes here where you were able to put in the ambient conditions are all going to be grayed out. Unfortunately, it also grays out altitude and is not included in here. So you're going to probably want to edit it anyway so that you can put the proper altitude in. Philadelphia, we're fairly close to the water, so it wouldn't actually matter for this location, but somewhere like Denver, somewhere where you're higher altitude, that might come into more play. And then ambient conditions. So this says in 2020, our hottest temperature of the year was 93.5. That seems really low to me just by living here, but what we can do is we can adjust this. We can add temperatures in as we'd like based off of the temperature you're looking for. But right now, I'll put 95 in here. And then relative humidity, that's going to be very important for when you're sizing an adiabatic system. So anything using water, because the higher humidity that you have, the harder the adiabatic system is going to have to work to give you the temperatures you need. So really good for those hot, dry climates. Starts to break down a little bit and not be as efficient in a more humid climate. So we can do it, definitely can, but just wanted to put that in here. So the other thing that this does is you will need to be able to put in ambient profiling if you want to look at annualized weather data, because the total energy consumption of a unit in Philadelphia is going to be very different from a unit in San Diego. That's going to be very different from a unit in Chicago, even the same unit. So that's really why this is important, why we have this in here to show you. Um, the other thing I mentioned I would show you is if you're going to have multiple units. So along this right side, there's a lot of different things you can construct and add. The limits here, max number of units, we can show up to 50 units. If you have a site that's more than 50 units, you're probably going to want to get more engineering technical help from Kelvion anyway, just because of heat recirculation, different effects that can happen with these units. So really want to pay attention to what you're doing. Definitely recommend if you have anything more than 10 units to work with the engineers at Kelvion to make sure that you have the proper design in place. But so right now, if we did 10 units and let's say we added a zero to this. Of course, things not working. Okay, so we added a zero to this to make our capacity much higher. This is going to show us designs with the additional units. Everything else in here, there's some things I really don't use all that much that you'll be able to do. The forcing type is going to be a big one. So if you know you have a model in mind, or if you know you have a part of a model in mind. So our model numbers all correspond to specific things. You can put that in here in the right spots. So this will be LV, and then we'll say 208 is the section here. So it all corresponds to where in the model number it is. If you delete it, it replaces it with this number sign, which means that it's not limited and you can choose anything you'd like. I'm going to not force it right now and leave everything. The other thing you can do, if you have a very specific model, you can do this direct type selection here. And what that will do is it's going to fix another point here. It's going to fix your capacity. But then it opens you up down here to actually pick a unit. So I'm going to select a VBank. We'll say the ULVL, and then you can actually type it in and it will narrow down your model based off of the actual unit that you're looking for. Again, right now I'm just going to leave it open to all selections. What else do I want to show you on this page? The turbulators as well. So if you're using a highly viscous fluid, recommend using these viscous fluid optimized tubes. They're going to help you promote flow through the unit and prevent you from going laminar, which of course is very bad in a heat exchanger. So we have a few options. Really, the only one that we use at this point is the 3.2. The other one should probably be removed from the system. And that will just help promote flow through the coils. They are expensive, and really only want to use them if you have a viscous fluid like an immersion cooling fluid, something like that. Water, you're definitely not going to need them for, so I'm going to remove them right now. Again, I want to mention, I don't know if I had previously said this, but this is an ever-changing software. We're constantly working on upgrading and improving it. So there may be bugs that show up. There may be things that you come across that you're like, well, that doesn't make sense. It may be different from what you're seeing on this training. So if you have recommendations, if you have things you want to see on this, let us know. We can always adjust, and we have a great team of software engineers who work daily on this to improve it and make it better for you guys. So yeah, I want to just go through now. We'll build a selection. Um, here. So as you've seen before, you can select VBank, vertical, horizontal. What this is going to do is it's going to show you 10, up to 10 units at a time. So these are going to be 4 units of our 22 fan size. This is going to be based off of, again, list price on the side here. So these units are going to be your cheapest options. And then as you either add more units or increase the size of them, the price is going to go up. Remember, list price is not going to be your final price. That's just going to be the price that we show in here. And then you can use your individualized multiplier to determine your correct price. But regardless, it's going to show you the least expensive unit first because it just is a multiplier of what the cost to manufacture is for this unit. So here we go. I just selected the first one. So when you show 5 units or 4 units or more than 1 unit, it's going to give you these prices up here as a cost per unit and then a cost for all 4 units here. So it also shows you the total data section, which is new if you have more than 1 unit, where it totalizes your capacity, your flow rate, everything included here. So that's what a unit like this might look like. You'll notice compared to the basic training, there's a lot more selections on the right side here, which I will get into. I wanted to show you how to save a design. So saving your design here, you click this star, and what it will do is it adds it to your saved codes. So this is the unit that we just did. If you just came from the basic training, you'll notice the test unit was 4, it's moved down to 5, and then this unit with 4 units per selection is your top one. So if you go to show all, it would be this unit that we used. You can update the description. So if you want to put in second test unit for count. So you can update it, and then that will show up so that you can reference it. You can go back to the link, and this is the unit that we selected, right? So it doesn't actually show it there right now. I wonder if it takes a second to change in the star view. But right now, that's how it's set up so that you can go back and reference it. So long as you show all your codes, you'll be able to see all the different options that you have saved. If you are looking for annualized data, that's what I wanted to show you from here. You'll have to do that from the product selection area. So back here where you have all the different types of units available, what you'll want to do is click this checkbox next to the model number, not the actual model, but there's a checkbox here. And down at the bottom, you can do an annual simulation. What this will do is it will show you the weather data. This is for your power and water usages, and then your costs as well. So this is just a dry unit, so there's not going to be water involved here. So it's just showing an electric price. But if we were to do a pad unit here, it will also show you water units. So I'm going to make a different selection now that we're using adiabatic. It's a much smaller unit to be able to achieve the same capacity. So one of the benefits of adiabatic is the footprint. If you need a smaller footprint, that is one thing we can do to reduce your capacity. But we're going to go back here. Sorry for the jumping around. But on this page, I'm going to select the design with a check mark back to annual simulation. And the first thing it does is it gives you an electric and a water price. I'm going to set these to 0 right now, just because these are not the accurate water prices for Philadelphia. We don't have these input manually, or we don't have these input per location because they change too routinely for our software team to constantly edit them. So if you don't want to show your cost of ownership and you just want to show your water consumption, you can set them to 0. If you want to actually show your ownership, you can put in pricing. I don't know the accuracy of these. I'm just going to put in random numbers for right now to show you. These are your different profiles you can show. I work in the data center space, so that's going to default for me. But if you want to do base load, that's probably what's going to default for you. Base load this is going to be whatever you input your parameter at, this is the load that is showing. So if your capacity for your unit is much higher than this based off of what you actually picked compared to what your input was, then it's gonna be a little bit different at the ending. So want to show you that, and then I'll show you what I mean by that in a second. Profiles here, I typically keep the fixed set point with an outlet of this is what you put in for your parameter. So we said I want a 4 outlet throughout the year. If you decide if you're using a mixed cooling mode, something like that, where in the summer you have a second output temperature, you can do that here. So you'll see when this is your ambient weather, what the set point of the dry cooler is. So it's keeping a certain approach. I typically like the fixed set point as 1 just to show you what we're looking at. So if we calculate it, this is going to keep the same model number. What I had mentioned here was the capacity. So 3873.93 is what each one of these units can do. If you multiply that by 4, it's not going to equal exactly 17,050. So if you want to get the exact match, you can go to data center or any of these different types, and then do a base load of the exact number that you're trying to match. Heat transfer walls, I don't tend to like using. This is assuming that you're losing heat naturally, and I disagree. I think that just a base load would be fine here. So I'm going to click here on the unit, and it's taking a second just to go through and give us the answer. But this is the same page that you saw before, but now at the bottom, there's going to be a little bit more information. So you have your adiabatic system that we had seen before. I don't actually think we showed a adiabatic data sheet, but it is here. There's also your total cost of ownership. So this is where I said if you want to put in 0, this will just be blank, but I did put in data. So it shows you here's what your total list price consumption is, list price is, electric and water use, and then that's multiplied over 10 years to show you your total ownership amount for these 4 units, and breaks it down for you. The reason I don't like this is that it shows you the unit equipment costs in list price, which typically is not what your final sale price is going to be. So it's going to change these values a little bit on your final cost of ownership analysis. Average consumptions. So for your temperature, this is going to be your distribution of temperatures in Philadelphia throughout the year, based off of whatever site you put in. And then once you get above, looks like 74, 75 degrees, that's when you're going to start, your adiabatic system is going to kick on and start assisting here. So this is also a chart on your fan speed. So for whatever temperature of the year you have, this is your percent of your maximum fan speed that you'll be running on the unit. And then this is the the important details of how we calculate your total water and energy usage. So we bin our weather data. As you'll notice, they're kind of weird bins. They're actually 1C increments. So that's why it's going to look a little bit odd here. But we bin it throughout the year, determine how many hours of the year fall in each bin data, and then show you how much power and water is required to keep your temperatures that you're looking for. So this one you'll see at the little higher end, it starts to drop off a little bit. So just based off of the unit that we selected, that's what's running and how much capacity is needed. But you'll notice 17,050 MBH. The unit actually only performs to 15,495. So that's where I said you want to make sure that this number is the number that you're putting into your annual simulation. So you can copy this to put into annual here. And then keeping heat transfer 0 to get an accurate picture of what your, that doesn't look like the right number. That's right. So make sure that the comma is not included. You'll see my mistake in real time. Otherwise, it will default back to whatever it was before. And so this is the actual number that you want it to show in your annual simulation. So now if we go back to our simulation, the total heat rejection is the proper amount, and you're getting 104 throughout the year, a little bit higher on the upper point. But if you increase the fan speed a little bit, you'll be able to get the exact 104.0. So these are our annual consumption values for water and electricity based off of the weather data for Philadelphia in this case. So important if you wanted to look at that to determine how your site's going to need to perform, how much water reserves, PUE, everything like that they're going to need. The other thing I wanted to go through, so I mentioned specifications and CAD files. Over here, there's a couple more things that you can include. So we'll start from the top. The add to collections is not going to do anything for you. Copy Kelvion code we discussed before. This is going to be for your reference and for our reference. So if you wanted to provide a code to get right back to this page, this is what you can use. So if our engineers, your sales rep within Kelvion reaches out and says, hey, can you provide us the code? This is where you can get it. Request quote. This is going to be if you are looking for anything that doesn't show up here. So I'll back up a second. Maybe. So I'm sorry, it's being a little slow. Here we go today. So if there was an option that you wanted to include in here that say is an on request item, such as getting a UL certificate, it shouldn't be much of any cost, but it is listed here without any. You can add that, and then your price is not going to be reflected on the data sheet anymore because you have an option that's on request. So if you're needing a price for something like that, if you're looking for freight costs, also same thing, you can do it through this request quote button. What you'll do is you'll go through, this information should populate if you have it already in your user account. So really the only information you'll need is down here at the bottom. Information, we don't have an option for freight because we have lots of different locations we could send our units to. So if you want to do freight, just do freight request for Knoxville. If you're trying to deliver to Knoxville, wherever you're trying to deliver, make sure to include it in here. This rate would be fairly small because we're manufacturing in Knoxville, but that's the idea. And you'll want to make sure in your options and accessories to select a wrapping of the unit so that it's ready to be delivered across the road. But this will help our team determine, hey, we need to give a freight cost for this quote. Vertical market, so this helps us determine where this request should go, and helps our internal systems so that we have the right person reaching out to you and requesting. Highly recommend filling in the right vertical market here. And then this is going to be important as well to agree that your data can be used. So this gets sent to our team, gets directly into our CRM so that we know this is a real opportunity. This is something that you are needing and an opportunity you're working on. So let's get answers back to you quickly and get the information right. You can also reach out to your Kelvion sales rep. You should have somebody that you've worked with in the past that can help you get this information. If you don't, this is the great place to start. So I'm going to go back now. I'm not going to submit the request for this unit as it's just a test right now. So that's where you can go for those special request items. If you were to do on the right side here, there's a few more points. If you can do recalculate working points, recalculate modify coil, what these will do is it helps you reselect a unit either with working points if you want to keep a lot of the things the same, but to maybe increase your ambient temperature, something like that. What that will do is it will keep the same model number. So if you know, okay, this is what we've bought, but we want to see how it runs at a different ambient temperature, different fluid temperatures, you can do that. Modify coil, that's going to be if you have a specific design where you're running if you have a model, but you want to change the connection type or change the coil design. So instead of a 2-pass, it's a 4-pass. Of course, it is going to cancel on me. So I'm going to go back here. Another good reason you can save is if there's an error, something happens, you can go right back. So, and then internal notes is just if you want to keep notes, it's only going to show up on this page. So just be aware of that. Over here, data sheets. This is going to be downloads for you. There's a lot of options here. The best way, especially if you're trying to build a quote from KSRT, is to use customized datasheet. So if you customize, and then this is really your section as a seller to be able to input how you like. So whether you want to show with a data sheet with no pricing, with list prices, for your discount, if you know your multiplier, something like this, you can add it in. I'm sorry, it wouldn't be it would be 0.8 because it's a percentage. So you can add that in. It will auto calculate it for you so long as the pricing is showing for the final price. So you can do list and you can show both prices. Highly unlikely you're going to want to do that. So discounted prices without the discount, so it won't actually show you this amount, which again is probably what you'd prefer. And then this one is going to just show you the final prices. So it won't show you what each option cost, only the final. Over here, you can choose if you want to show Kelvion branding and then TCO, total cost of ownership. So this is going to include your annual data as well. So if you're trying to show your annualized weather data, you can change this to a yes. If you don't need it, you can leave it as no. This information can pre-populate based off of what your user account says. The information on the left is going to be stuff you'd fill out, customer specific. If you have additional notes you want to write, including disclaimers, anything like that, you can provide that in the information down here. A quote number. This is all for you to decide how you want to build it. And you can create a doc. This will print out in PDF or Microsoft Doc format. And it should have download it. It didn't go through yet just because everything's being slow today. It's a Friday afternoon. Okay, so here you go. This is what the data sheet would print out like, and then you can adjust as you'd like. The link will also print here. If you don't want your customers to see the link, you can get rid of it. It's entirely up to you how you want to go about working through this procedure. So we're going to do that. You can save it where you'd like. I'm not going to save it because I don't need to access this one. Back here, oh, of course, I went too far back. Back here. So that's how you can build a quote directly from KSRT. The specifications and CAD files. That's something I definitely want to go over. So this download section is going to have where your specification will be. So this text of tender. Take a look because we're constantly changing and updating this. If you've used it in the past, you're like, well, this isn't giving me what I need. Try it again, see what's in there because it might have new, more relevant information for you. And then the product line brochure is the same as I mentioned in the basic training. What you'll see on a lot of our selections, but not all of them, is a box here. Let me pull up a different unit. I'll go to the test unit, which will say request CAD model and drawing. If it's not there, send the request in your information through the quote. But if it is there, this is a good way to get your 3D models, everything that you need directly from the site without having to wait too long. Typically, you get the results within 30 minutes. So you can, if you have a quote number, you can put it in. If you have what you're looking for, please let us know exactly what it is, and then you send yes. What that will do is it sends you an email. It would look something like this. So your crests have been generated, and then you'll get a zip file with all of the information on that unit that you need. So I'm just going to pull up the PDF one because that's the easiest. So it has 3D files, it has 2D files, and it shows you the different points that you would need for this unit. So definitely, if it's there, take a look. Sometimes if you guys can't find the CAD model, we can find the unit in a little bit slightly different configuration to be able to generate the model for you. But we can always get something for you back on this unit. Otherwise, I think I covered everything we wanted to go through today. We talked about annualized power and water usage. We generated specifications and CAD files using the documents on the side here. We saved and referenced selections using the save tools. The other thing you can do from here is this link will also send you to requesting a quote, same page that you saw before. So if you have a bunch of links up, you can figure out which one you want to request. Building a quote from KSRT, we were able to do that at the end on the customized data sheet. Non-standard options and pricing, I showed you how to request that information. Estimated freight charge is at the same spot through the request a quote button. And then multi-unit selections such as this one, I showed you how to be able to go through that as well. So if there are any questions, if there's more things you want us to cover, please let us know. We can do more training. We can go through this. We can make updates. So hopefully this was a lot of information that will help you figure out what you need and be able to get to. So, all right. Thank you all.